हेलो गाइस, वेलकम। आज हम पढ़ने जा रहे हैं सेरेब्रोस्पाइनल फ्लूइड विच इज़ CSF। सो द इंट्रोडक्शन इज़ द CSF इज़ अ मॉडिफाइड टिश्यू फ्लूइड। इट कंटेन्ड इन द मतलब हमारे ब्रेन में जो भी वैकेंट स्पेसेस रहती है उसके अंदर हम CSF को फॉर्म होते हुए देख सकते हैं या फिर प्रेजेंट रहते देख सकते हैं। तो इट इज़ कंटेन्ड इन वेंट्रिकुलर सिस्टम ऑफ ब्रेन, सब अरेक्नॉइड स्पेस एंड स्पाइनल कॉर्ड. So how it is formed? It is formed by the choroid plexus of lateral ventricle, third ventricle, and fourth ventricle. So these are the major places where it is formed. Then the quantity of CSF is about 150 ml, and rate is about 200 ml per hour or 5000 ml per day. The normal pressure of CSF is about 60 to 100 mm of Hg. Now let us take the look at the circulation. The choroid plexus of lateral ventricle, third ventricle, and fourth ventricle, where the CSF is formed, then it is goes to the lateral ventricle. From lateral ventricle it goes to the third ventricle through the foramen of Monro. Then from third ventricle to the fourth ventricle through the cerebral aqueduct or Celvius. Then from fourth ventricle it goes into the subarachnoid spaces through the foramen of Luschka and Magenta. Then from subarachnoid spaces it goes to the arachnoid villi, then the venous regions system of the brain. So here is the total diagram of how the CSF is contained in the brain. There is, as we seen, there are these choroid plexus, then third ventricle, then we have cerebral aqueduct, then fourth ventricle. These all have been we seen in diagram. So the absorption, the how CSF is absorbed. CSF is mainly absorbed by the arachnoid villi, also absorbed by perineural lymphatics and vein related to the spinal nerve. Then the function is to protect the brain, decrease the sudden pressure to delicate the nervous tissue, provide nourishment to the nervous tissue, the glucose and oxygen to the neurons which cannot live without. So the neuron present in our brain, they need oxygen and glucose. So as we can see, the brain has direct and indirect supply. Means we can say that brain is that doesn't actually have blood supply, or it have blood supply. So this is a confusing statement, but the oxygen which is required by our body is fulfilled by blood, but in brain CSF does that function. So the glucose and oxygen to the neurons is supplied by CSF. Then the pineal gland secretion reach pituitary gland through CSF. Then the clinical anatomy. As we can see, the clinical anatomy is important as point of the neurosurgery. So it has mean decrease in the head circumference, increase in head circumference caused due to obstruction of CSF circulation called hydrocephalus. So we can see in this diagram the condition of hydrocephalus. The circumference of brain increases, which is caused by the ventriculars are filled with extra fluid. So the extra fluid CSF is formed. The change in biochemistry of CSF may be meningitis. So we have meninges in our brain which covers the brain. So the change in biochemistry of CSF may be meningitis. Then the CSF can be obtained by lumbar puncture or a ventricular puncture. So CSF is obtained by lumbar puncture, in which there is a lumbar needle which is inserted into the spinal cord. So where we can get the sample of CSF. Thank you.